subjected to the sun. So when you see the loom without warp or without yarns, it looks sluggish this way, as if it's nothing, but it's quite important to the river, and it helps the river the most. And this is how you normally found them in under shades, trees, or some touches like this in the cottage industries in Ghana. And this is the typical traditional Kente weaving loom in Ghana. This one and the previous one, they are the traditional Kente weaving loom in Ghana. This is also the Kete loom found with the Ewe weavers in Ghana, like from the Volta region and its environs. You see, it also looks a bit different, but it performs the same fashions as that of the traditional weaving loom at Bonyere. Sometimes there comes a conflict, and that one, I don't entreat anybody to go there like I brought the weaving in Ghana. Because when you look at when you read the books, you see it goes beyond the date that some of them are talking about. That I am the first to bring weaving in Ghana, I am what and what. But I think if we collaborate and bridge the knowledge of our techniques together, it can help bring a lot of uniqueness and a lot of development in the contemporary world. So this one was from a collaboration with Rebecca Dimachi and at the Prempe, the second library in Ken University. We try to show two different kinds of looms. The main traditional from the far right, or is it left from your setting? And the Boku loom, that is the invented loom by Lionel K. Aidan, who happens to be one of the lecturers in Kenya University. He invented this loom and make sure it was perfectly like that of the main traditional Kente loom. But this one trying to save space. But when we perform this exhibition, we try to portray the loom in two different forms. The one the white lady is sitting in, we stretch the warp like that of the main tradition. And the one the young man is sitting in, we depict it as how Lionel Aidan invented the loom. And this is the side view of that loom. And with that loom, he incorporated some treadles and headles and lamps or distributor in such a way, and the warp tool is loaded on a roller in which it will not be stretched long. So within a small space or within a room, you load your warp, then you can start your practice. And that is a student practicing on that loom. And we have these looms with the Dawaya people, and you can see it looks almost the same as that of the Bonyere tradition and the ever weaving people, and the same stretch, everything. But with the Daboya people, they patchy dye the warp before weaving. So their Fugu cloths comes with some patchy effect that also brings their uniqueness in their weaving, and it's quite important. Moving on, you can find these looms in Tamale here and its environs, and Yendi Wa, that is what I've heard of. And this loom is a two harness loom, two treadles loom, in which it performs or weave perfectly, and most of its effect is the plain weave, and they are characterized by their patterned warp. And I learned that also have more meanings into that, in which the patterns have more names and the rest. Before one go onto the loom or one start weaving, the person needs to align the yarns that will run lengthwise of the cloth, that is the warp, before he or she can set on the loom. And this is the traditional way of doing it. You drive pegs on the ground. Sometimes you can make the pegs long enough for you, or sometimes you drive it onto the ground very well that your warp will be low on the ground. And you can see from the two different pictures. And you use what is called the spool rack to make sure you put all your spools on it. Then you align the yarns that will run lengthwise of the cloth. This is how traditionally the warp is being aligned in Ghana here. This is the practice commonly found within the institutions or the weaving institutions. That is where we call the warping mill. And these two can be seen in Tamale here. I'm yet to find the person who brought the loom that they are weaving with it here. But I learned that person might be a foreigner. So he tried to introduce the foreign way of warping to the indigens here. And I think that was quite easy for them. So it has transpired over here, and this is what you can find commonly in the Tamale and Ite virals with the rivers here. And at the same time, this is the best practice in our weaving institutions. And in Kumasi Center for National Culture, you can see this kind of equipments there in which they use for warping. The same thing in the institutions. And with that, you can see some two pegs at the top, in which it is very peculiar to the river, because there he makes sure all the warp is well arranged to eliminate entanglements, to make sure the warp is set into the right parallel formation. And so when the warping is going, it goes on top of that peg, goes under this, then wind around it, and before it gets back to the peg, it started down there, as you can see the peg down there. So by so doing, going around like this with your cones on the floor, the cones can be plenty on the floor depending on the level of understanding of the river. If the river understands what he or she is doing, then he can put plenty cones of about let's say 20 to 30 cones per a move, and he can do it, and that will enable the river do the warping within the shortest possible time. But with these two, it takes time, but still you can produce in time and what he or she is doing. Then you can put plenty cones of about let's say 20 to 30 cones per move. Pegs on the ground, still you have to create the crosses, and this is how the crosses are created in the traditional way. So you go around like this, then back to where you started the warping. And after, this is how you make sure you secure the crosses before removing from the pegs. And traditionally, sometimes they drive this type of pegs on the floor, then after they put like the pin cord within, to make sure the the hole created or the shape created will not be missed. You make sure you keep it in that formation to keep the warp in the right parallel formation. So this is how the warp are preserved before taken out from the pegs. And this is the traditional way of preserving the warp, whereby the warp is rolled in a bar form. It's rolled in a bar form like this. Another way of doing it is in a coil form like this. This is also another way of preserving the warp. It depending on where one studied or where one practiced his or her weaving. And this is how some people do this. With the northern and the Ewe people, they practice this way of preserving the warp. And with the Asante people, they do this practice. And with the institutions, you say by chaining method. And this is an example of how a warp is chained and to make sure it is preserved. How bobbin winders are used over here and the kind of bobbin winders that you'll be having, and skinners with the yarns with hanks form. The same bobbin winder from different communities, skinners and new imported bobbin winders. These ones are imported, it's not locally made. And this one too imported, and this one is automated and it works. Yes, formerly ladies were not weaving within the Ashanti tradition. They have a whole lot of myth about this, but nowadays ladies are working, and by God's grace, that myth that if you weave you will not give birth, I think it's no more, because those who we have seen them weaving, they have given birth. Thanks to the Lord for saving us. The same thing happens how you arrange them. It also helps you in creating motif or pictures. That is the form of tapestry. So like the work hanging at the back there, this was how I created it with the arrangements of the headline order I chose, and I was able to come out with this effect, like the traditional Kente weaving effect with the picture. You can also derive the ever weaving technique effect with the same loom, depending on the arrangements that you will do with the headline order and the stepping orders. You can achieve the same effect too on this same loom. This is the side view of the loom, and it looks perfectly like that of the metal looms found in Tamale here. These are the shuttles the Ewes normally used. The shape is a bit different from that of the traditional Asante Kente weavers, but it also performs the same function. But theirs, they use the shuttle to create designs. They use the shuttle to create designs. So instead of passing the shuttle through the whole weight of the cloth, some shuttle are being passed through some point. With the traditional Asante Kente traditional weavers, they use their hands to pick whatever design they want to create. But with the ever weavers, they use shuttle to pick whatever design tool they want to create, and they can all give the same effect. But the slight difference is sometimes, especially if the design is to move in squares, like how you see the steps there. Sometimes when you open the cloth, you can see a slight holes within a color to a color, if you look critically. But if you are not critical about that, you can see. But the same thing happens to if the traditional Kente weaver is weaving and he or she is not conscious about that. That same thing also happens. But if the weaver is experienced and conscious about that, he keeps that, and you can see there is no holes between that color edges, I would say. So you will see this is the traditional Kente weaver weaving with the fingers to create whatever designs that he or she is doing. But here, the traditional Kete weaver is weaving the same Kente designs, but he is using the shuttle to create whatever designs within with the colors. And that's why their shuttle have flat endpoints. That's why their shuttle have flat endpoint. With the traditional Kente weaver, he sometimes use, but this is normally not common with them. Just a few people practice this. They call it the 6-headal loom, or the 6-headal weaving practice. The same loom, but they fix 6 headals within the yarns, and it also have different effect that it gives, and is important, and a quite experienced weavers practice that. It's not anybody who practice that, but the experienced weavers, and it's not common within the weaving section because some few people know how to produce this. And so that's one of the weaving, and this is its effects that it gives finally. That's how the cloths sometimes looks like. With this, most of the practice of the ever weavers. But now, as I've been saying, trans-culture, trans-practice, and whatever, the Ashantis too are practicing the same thing. It is built with 2 headers alone, but later on we put some simple hells behind it, in which it is lifted, and the swastik is being used to create the shading process to give different effects for one to create whatever motif or design that he or she intend doing. The Ewes, they weave perfectly like the Ashanti people, and I would say the Ashanti people also weave perfectly like the Ewes. But with the conversation with Kofi Setoji, and if you research, you got to know the Ewes always like the grayish colors. They like the color with grays and the white. So they try to introduce colors like this into the Ashanti Kente weaving tradition, and it works. So these effects are from them, and these are examples of their works. Normally when you came across colors like this, you can see it's from them. The Ashanti colors are mostly yellow, green, black, saying the rich black man in the forest. So they like that colors, but the Ewes too prefer the use of colors like this. The Ewes too prefer these designs the most. You see their grayish colors, mixture of colors, especially within the warping, they apply some colors. They can choose to take green and yellow together to be in the same strand of warping. And at the same time, they like their design to stand differently from the other part of the cloth. So you will see our cloth, the right side look different from the wrong side. But with the traditional Kente weaving, it looks the same at both sides. Though you can see the sheen or the good luster at the right side, but it's almost look the same. But with the Ewes, it looks different from the other side. And we can continue that conversation when we got to the stands and see the kinds of weaving that have been displayed there. So these are some of the ever weaves that has been woven over the years. And that was kind courtesy the legend Samuel Kofi. I got these pictures from Mr. Kofi Setoji, and these are some of the ever weaves commonly practiced over the years. And it's like simple plain weave, but they use what is termed double warp, whereby you will see two sets of warp being running together, and the interlacing is such that at a certain intervals they make sure one warp fuses into the other, and that brings these kinds of designs. The same happening to this, and with their simple coloration and their grayish colors, as said earlier, you can see how their designs looks like. And they are also skillful. They can create whatever motifs, whatever designs, but they also have their style. And I think it's time we bridge all this together to move the weaving industry into the contemporary. The same designs here, and these are examples of the Akan design or the Akan weaving motifs. The Nchinchim, the Apremu, the Mpabwa, the Nchemfre, Fehiako Trajimai, and many more. So just to take this for the sake of this presentation, you can see this normally in the Akan traditional weaving techniques. Example is this. Previously, this is an example of a cloth known as Fatia Fatankroma. The blue one was termed Fatia Fatankroma. When they said when President Nkrumah was overthrown, then they tend to produce this black background work and name it differently from Fatia Fatankroma. But nowadays, they don't want to mention that name anymore. So they still use the Fatia Fatankroma. And you see the arrangements of the Inchinchim versus the Impuankron, and it should follow a patterns like this. So when you arrange them, it follows some patterns like this. And now you can get some cloths with backgrounds like this, white, to depict the Fatia, Fata, and Nkrumah. Then this kind of cloth too also came, whereby the area where there is no design, but you can see some yellow interlacing the green. It's also a set of warp being interlaced with a plain weave techniques. So two sets of warp. The yellow might be different set of warp, then the green, black and white will also be different set of warp. But in the course of weaving, the weaver tries to interlace those sets together, and that brings in such effects. And it was a very popular cloth, but nowadays it's not commonly seen in the system because of its difficult way of weaving. And they keep on producing pieces like this, known as a Gyasi, see the continuance of design. So when he styled the tail ends or the border designs, then he changed the middle design and weave long to the length that the person wants. Then he arranged them in such a way. Going back to the broad loom, is capable of weaving a whole lot of stuffs, and he recently tried the use of jute, and it works, and this student practiced that and later on produce a simple bag from it, and that is how it was finally seen. You can see with the tapestry, a student practicing tapestry, and the motive of the handwork. This lady too trying to read the graph. Tapestry, you have to transfer the design onto a graph sheet, and how best you transfer the design onto the graph sheet, and how best you read the design and transfer onto the yarns enables you achieve whatever designs that you intend weaving. So with the tapestry, the graphing, the picture scene, they are all very important to the weaver. So that lady was trying to weave the legend Nkrumah, and she ended up successfully getting that picture. The weaving tradition keeps on, and I try to incorporate a whole lot of motifs, the Dinkra symbols and the rest, and even with the weaving of the Presbyterian crest or logo, and these were some of the samples I have achieved over the years. And with the Dinkra symbols, Yamidua, Chinchim, and the rest. Then comes the work being displayed out there with the integration of the traditional weaving designs, the Dinkra symbols, and it goes on. With this, you see the late, with this, Abladi Grover tried to make sure he preserved traditional Dinkra symbols in Ghana. So he tried popularizing it the most. And with this, we find SCCA, with the help of Selom Kuji and Patrick Ukanta, realized we have to develop the Dagbani symbols that was being produced by the late Professor Peliga. And we found out that this nodding looms has been capable of weaving this kind of pattern warps in plain. So we deem it necessary to see how best technically we can introduce designs into these pieces, and at the same time we promote the designs of the late Professor Peliga. So we try to share knowledge and see how best we can enhance that looms so that the community will involve themselves into this practice. So with this kind of loom, we try to improve it into this level, and we try these kind of designs on them, and it's working. The rest is we had wanted to make this very large one whereby we can produce plenty looms, invite more weavers, then we progress with this knowledge sharing. But unfortunately is that we have not get the funding for that, so the project keeps on going, and you can see it behind there. And these are some of the designs, and this design, for example, means one person does not engage in an argument. Someone usually speaks and another replies, and there are always two sides of a coin. Blame cannot be partial. This is the meaning of the symbol produced by the late Prof. Peliga. It's with Dagwani name, but I'm not well versed in Dagwani, so I think my Dagwani people will spare me if I pronounce it wrong. Say Nim Vuvu Yinuku Yeli Yeli. That's the name of the design, and I think it's quite nice, and it speaks very well for unity. And it goes on. We try to bring this one too, and the name in Dagwani was Luka Inulu. You fall and I fall is what keeps the play of dogs well. Win some, lose some, give and take, and a symbol of compromise and mutual respect. I like this symbol the most. So we have been practicing these symbols on this loom with the hope that if all things being equal, we get funding, we expand this knowledge in the north here and introduce the technique of design weaving into the Fugu weaving practice in the northern here, whereby they start incorporating symbols or designs into their Fugu weaves, not just the normal plain that they are fond of. Now they have to move to next levels. So this is what has been transpired over here and over the days, and we get some movement in which we're practicing. I think unity is strength, and it's time weavers in Ghana we stop the idea that I have the strength, I am perfect than whatever, I am perfect than whoever. Then we all share knowledge to improve the technique of our weaving. Because the weaving disciplines I have come across in the Ghanaian setting, I think is very strong and laudable. When we bridge the gap of our differences, it will yield out a good resource by bringing us a very unique works and artifacts. So with that, with the end of my MPhil program, I try to produce this kind of fugu with the incorporation of, instead of wearing suits, I chose to wear this kind of fugu. But many people did not know the reasons why. I thought with the incorporation of the northern strips, as you can see, the northern fugu strips is within that fugu, and the grayish content in which the Ewe people normally use and they are fond of was also introduced into the traditional Kente weaving. And these pieces were sewn together, and I think everyone can attest to the fact that it's a very nice piece. With this, I think we have to bridge the weaving techniques in Ghana together and make it a good hallmark of the nation. Thank you very much. Okay. If no question, I think we can go there. Then we share more light on what has been mounted outside there. Thank you.
If there are any, reactions, contributions to this, we can take them now. Otherwise, if we still want to continue the conversation where the looms are, where it's more practical, we can also go there.
Yes, Gyasi, thank you so much for sharing your deep insight, especially into the aesthetics and production, the forms, colors, patterns, techniques, and so forth. I'm curious if, I know there are so many possible outlets, but I'm curious if you could speak a bit, for any of them, the connection between the form and the function, or maybe why a color, why a pattern, why a weaving technique is going a certain way, and how I realize in our time, the function that we use it for might not be attached to what it was historically. But if you have insight into that, I'd be really interested. Also because I think the schools of thought that were in here between Red Clay, Carey, Black Star Lines, and Co., we're very interested in engaging form and production as politics or function. And these are aspects that are already at home in the cultures here. So maybe you can shed a little light for us.
Thank you very much. Formally, one of the politics is, if a traditional Kente weaver is to weave with the grayish colors, or maybe colors of that sort, it will not be possible. I quite remember one of my superior I met at Kenya University. That is the late Mr. Kankambuadu. Some person came and commissioned a cloth for him to produce. And the person described some colors. And that was bluish and the purple colors, to combine them to weave Kente for him. He said, no, that is not the practice. It has to be a color that falls within the domain. If you weave such kind of cloth for him, what will somebody tell him when he sees that cloth and says he wove it? So he did not produce that cloth. And I think now it's getting a thing of the past. and you can see um, all the cultures they are trying to buy into each other, because I can see the Ewes producing typical Kente cloth, and the Ashantis too producing typical Kete cloth. That's the Ewe techniques and the rest. So now, if I get your question properly, I think it is going on and vice versa. And now we are trying to understand each other. That is what I see now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I was wondering, like you showed as an example how you wear it on your body, but do you have also exhibition situations? Maybe you have some image of examples where you where and how you would display your work, because we have, I think, this in textile presentations, very often you have quite classical forms of showing it either on the wall or in a vitrine, but there could of course be many other possibilities. Yeah.
I'm now beginning to show the works in these forms. I'm now beginning to show the works in these forms. I have not been displaying very much about this work, but I've been producing, but shortly there will be more display and more to come. Thank you. It depends on the weaver and the technique that he or she wants to go on. But I had wanted to create the 2 times weaving technique, whereby the same thing will appear behind it. This is the traditional Kente weaving technique, whereby you pick twice. You can see the same thing behind the cloth.
Behind where?
Underneath will be the same as that on the example is this. You can see the same thing at the back here.
On both sides.
On both sides. But with the ever weaving example is this one. You can see the back of that looks different from the front here. So that is how different? Every style of weaving. You will see the yarns or the strands will not stand there.
Excuse me.
Thank you very much. The strands will not stand there like here. Here you can see how the strands has been. I chose to use the PP course, and you can see the other side looks different from, but it all gives a nice image or a nice formation, but it looks different from that of the main traditional Kente weaving techniques. And example of the typical traditional Kente weaving strip is this.
Yeah.
And like those being hung on the walls. So it is. And that of the broadloom, example of the broadloom work is what is being hung over here. And this design was derived from the traditional Kente weaving design known as Nsroma. And I based on the Nsroma design to create this kind of designs and weave this piece to be termed the chameleon. And you can see how different colors has been woven with and how it shows. And at the same time, the design repeats also varies. At some point, the design repeats were small, and at some point too, is very large. You can see from the head, and you can see from the top there. It's not that because it's at the top, but there the design repeat was in a small formation. It was very small. But when it was reaching this part, I started from the top there and finished at this end, and try to incorporate fibers for the eyes of the chameleon I was trying to. And you can see this fiber being introduced over here. This fiber being introduced over here. Yes. So that is another piece I produced on the I-Dance broadloom. Okay, say. Thanks. Oh yes, works faster.
And I can see there is a stop, and you can bring it to can up and down. Yes, up and down, and you have the hole for the jam here inside. So
I have the
here,
whole.
look here. This. I mean this. This.
The eyelet.
Yeah. Yeah. And this brings the rhythm in this.
The space between here.
Yeah, this little space to bring it in this position. You can put this through. So habe ich das richtig erklärt.
I'm not getting.
I think like what she wants to actually understand is like you have like 4 plates here moving the thread up and down and creating the space in between, and like all of them are 4. But would you also be able to use more of those, maybe like 6 or 8, like to make it more complex?
Oh yeah. We can add more, but it's like now this is the first intervention. And we have to see how best the indigenes will buy into this idea before you introduce more. To make it too complex. If we don't take care, last I was even discussing with one of the guys. I have been seeing a whole lot of things that to bring, but I had wanted not to make the thing too complex to them that they will not buy into this knowledge. If it becomes too complex, they will not go with you, and they will just stick to what they have. But in order to make sure the knowledge is well shared, I think we first have to see how best this will sell to them. Then we try to bring in more. That is what I have been thinking by now. Because even with the roller, that is why I have not brought that one yet. If they don't buy that idea and you say you have set warp roller for them, before you mount a warp on a roller, it takes another way of doing that, and that also will buy time small. But if you don't let them become happy with this and you just fix the roller there and you say, oh, now I can just make it cute with this, they will not go with you and they will stick to what they have and they will not even attend to this and try it and develop it. So I wish we see more development on this, then we keep on sharing more light into it. That is my view.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Any? The people couldn't come in.
No, I mean, people.
Oh, if anybody wants to try, I think the person can. All works.
Okay.
So if you want to try, you can try any of it.
I want to see.
Okay. Okay, any of it. Press the fourth thread, the third thread, or rather. No, the third on your.
This?
Okay, good.
So.
So wouldn't it be easier to order?
Okay, press it over. Go with the first thread on.
Ah, yeah.